Now I would like to give the floor to Boris to continue his presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation, Deso. It's a pleasure again to be here. Let's try and see how the screen share would work. Just a second. Okay.
It's visible. It's
visible. Is it fine? Should I make it full screen or it's okay?
No, it's perfectly okay. It's okay.
Okay, good. So how much time is that there? So 10, 15 minutes tops, right?
Depends on your will, but approximately the maximum amount is 25 to 30 minutes because the next module comes in.
I'll be much shorter than this.
Okay.
I'll do my best. Okay, so first, I would like to mention that I'm definitely not a professional in the field of insurtech. That being said, however, I believe there are cross points between the areas I'm working in. Recently, this is AI, blockchain, and also security, digital security. So I believe the topic of my presentation today is quite relevant to the insurance domain, which is tightly bound with the general financial domain. And I believe in probably more cases than less, the threats and the defenses I'm going to talk about, which come from the field of AI, are quite relevant to the insurance domain per se as well. Okay, so the topic for today is AI and financial security. Let me just make a very short presentation of me for those who we haven't met with so far. I work in the field of AGI, or development of general artificial intelligence, on an academic level and research level, and on business level. I'm the CEO of a company which deals with developing AI, blockchain, and quantum safe solutions for the state and the business sectors. Now, one of the hot topics in finance today, although a very different finance than the one we used to know before the mysterious persona of Satoshi Nakamoto appeared on the digital stage, is blockchain. And as we are witnessing it today, blockchain is virtually taking over novel domains of the global financial scenery than before. Today, blockchain is not only a backbone for the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other crypto coin which is out there. It is being implemented by the big financial players which never ever intended before to have something to do with blockchain technology as presented by the cryptocurrencies. We're talking about financial players like national banks, like the Bank of China or the European Central Bank, or US banks and the Federal Reserve. We are talking about financial players like Visa and MasterCard and many others. So what we are witnessing today is the blending of the traditional financial ecosystem, which is global, and the novel architecture backbone of the cryptocurrencies ecosystem, which is the blockchain. And typically, blockchain and AI are two of the hottest words in the digital world today, but less often than more often, they're used in a sentence together, which I believe is a vacuum which has to be filled in, because AI and blockchain are related. and in a non-trivial way. How come? Well, there's more than one direction for this blending, but the most obvious and the most current one, which attracts a lot of attention, is the emergence of digital fiat money. For example, and they are typically regulated on a blockchain architecture. We witnessed several months ago the emergence of the digital yuan. The European Central Bank is talking and developing a project about a digital euro. The couple of US banks are together with MIT, I believe, are developing prototypes for a digital dollar, and many other countries are working on their own projects as well. Now, the points of contact between AI and blockchain technologies, whether it regulates traditional cryptocurrencies or novel digital fiat money, is data. That's the main cross point. It's not the only one. Now, blockchain, especially in a rich financial field, imagine transactions of digital yuans or digital dollars or digital euro written in one or another blockchain architecture. It's an immense amount of data. And as we know, the only player in town which is able to deal adequately with big data of the perhaps lesser amount than the big data in IoT domain, but still an enormous data, and big data in finance is going only to grow in all estimations. The only player in town who can deal and cope for many tasks in this domain is AI technology. Now, I don't have time and frankly no desire to delve into differences between deep learning, the varieties of AI, sometimes justly called AI, more often than not unjustly called AI. But at the end of the day, whether it's a machine learning algorithm, whether it's a deep learning subspecies, or eventually one day a much cleverer AI capable of logically semantic reasoning, which we don't observe as of now, would be able to cope and to do tasks, to perform real-time tasks like big data analytics, big data pattern recognition, big data decision-making enabling. So AI is non-trivial for the proper functioning of the financial ecosystem of tomorrow. And when we talk about data, we should always bear in mind that security is critical when it comes to data. Now, we continue. As I mentioned, more and more countries and corporate international agents like Visa and MasterCard, among others, prepare to transition at least part of their work and business on blockchain technology. For example, I mentioned the digital yuan, digital euro, and eventually a digital dollar. As we can all more or less easily imagine, the emergence and the introduction of digital fiat money globally would change not only the structure and the dynamics of the global financial ecosystem, part of which is the insurance domain, but it would also change the security reality when it comes to the whole financial system. And there is another cross point between AI and the finance of the future, blockchain or not blockchain based, but still digital. And this is security. Now, I would like to start with some positive news when it comes to the digital fiat money reality. It's not all negative. Let's start with the positive. For example, the actual couple of reasons why digital fiat money, typically blockchain based, would be adopted in the first place, and we see it happening as we speak in a country like China, and not just China. Digital fiat would provide cheaper, faster, and much more practical alternative to international transactions outside the today's global financial system. Now, there's going to be a transitional period, obviously, and eventually digital fiat would be probably most cases, but for example, China would be a different scenario, would be adopted and naturally blended within the existing fiat international financial system, but they would introduce new practical benefits for the users as well as to the corporations like Visa and MasterCard and big banks, international banks, as well as central banks and states. So business would change. Settlement times would be nearly real time. Price for a transaction would be enormously lower, and others. It would be one click away, what previously took hours and sometimes days. Now, eventually, it's not unreasonable to expect that digital fiat would boost the global money flow, not just local money flows, due to practical usability. And hence, another good news is that due to this increased dynamics expectations, we can also expect to boost sectors, financial sectors like retail portion of the economy, and perhaps not only retail. However, and this is the beginning of the more negative part of the analysis, increased flow of digital fiat would be better protected if devised cleverly, however, not a priori, against problems like fraud, tax detection, tax evasion, money laundering, inflation, and counterfeiting. Now, this would help to stabilize crypto markets and forex, modern digital fiat markets of the future, because they'll have really fast and easy accessibility. They'll have immense volumes, as the volumes we see today in crypto exchanges, and immense liquidity. Now, just to give an illustration about the project of the European Central Bank for digital euro, and this is more or less taken and as an excerpt from the website of the European Central Bank, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is what the European Union says. The digital euro would guarantee costless access to a simple, universally accepted, safe, and trusted means of payment. The digital euro would still be like a euro, like banknotes, only digital. It would be an electronic form of money issued by the European Central Bank. A digital euro would not replace cash, but it would complement it. Now, here I have a small comment. Yes, in the beginning, of course, it's not going to replace cash, but it's not unimaginable to forecast a quite close future where the cash, the physical cash as we know it, would simply die out, and the whole world would begin to use only digital fiat money. That's quite thinkable and quite probable. The only unknown is when eventually it's going to happen. And another benefit is that the digital euro is expected to be just an additional choice about how to pay. Again, I have a comment that eventually within the European financial ecosystem, the digital euro would become the only way about how to pay. By mere preference, people would prefer, due to usability and practicality, to use digital euro and not cash euro. And the same principle holds for virtually any other expected digital fiat money. Now, when it comes to the digital dollar, it's slightly a bit different. For example, nobody disputes that an eventual introduction of a digital US dollar would fundamentally change the way the US dollar is used, not only in US, but globally. And ironically or not, but many banks in US, if not all of them, but many, view the project of the digital dollar as a threat to their profits. And on the other hand, payment companies, big international players like I mentioned before, Visa and MasterCard, they work with central banks, so the new currencies can be used on their networks. We can imagine the profit and market share each one of these companies and others in the same branch would bite using high liquidity, cheap transactions or virtually free transactions, immense real-time speed, and many other digital benefits. Now, what is not clear, and financial security experts are quite worried about this, is how an eventual digital US dollar would interact with the existing global payments network. However, what we have to keep in mind that the previous and I believe the current US government is committed quite significantly to digitizing the US dollar. So this is going to be a game changer for a lot of financial sectors, like, just to give you a small illustration, the oil trade, the global oil trade, all right? And let's mention a couple of expected negative effects of the new digital fiat money reality. Imagine a really well-devised crypto algorithm of the kind that the Monero cryptocurrency employs, but only better. And such crypto algorithm, which would constitute eventually the backbone of at least some of the digital fiat money, would create a reality of practically untraceable money flows. We see a taste of this for quite several years up until now in the quite real case of the dark web. Transactions in the dark web in the beginning shifted from fiat money, which were only cash money, whether escrow, whatever, bank payments or cash, in many other crazy ways of evading traceability by authorities, international and local. They adopted Bitcoin. And then after it became clear that Bitcoin is not nearly as anonymous as people for a while believed it was, they switched to Monero, which so far is considered much more anonymous capable than Bitcoin from the top 100 crypto coins in the world. Now imagine a really anonymous blockchain regulating fiat money, certain state fiat money. Now, I'm not saying China, but you can have your pick. And this would change an enormous amount of the global financial, not just market, but reality of transactions. It would render it impenetrable and untraceable for authorities, be they banks, trade banks, central banks, states, or international organizations. Well, this is a vulnerability which might be, and it would be used by criminal organizations, totalitarian states, terrorist organizations, unorganized criminals, whatnot. And this is a serious new vector of threat which has to be considered, especially at the time of coming up with the concrete technology of the blockchain. Now, it's more or less clear that even without such anonymity, digital fiat money would weaken the traditional and standards ways of monitoring and controlling the global financial system. And again, let me remind you that the expectation is that eventually in the digital financial, well, it's in a way a reality, but the expectation is that this reality would become much heavier and much bigger, larger, that the huge chunks of the global financial reality would simply be inaccessible with not only with traditional means, but with modern means. And we have non-trivial players here, one of which is AI. And I'll talk shortly about the AI role in this threat scenery, but also modern encryption, quantum safe encryption, because as I mentioned in my previous talk in November, Deso, if I'm not mistaken, or October, quantum safe or new gen encryption is going to play a highly non-trivial role in securing not only the backbone of digital money and of course cryptocurrencies, but of IoT, everything digital, because when we have the old 95% asymmetric quantum unsafe encryption all over us, this phone, the computers and everything, and when you have a malevolent players like totalitarian states or criminal groups, recall the crypto attack, the encryption ransomware attack from yesterday or the day before yesterday on the east coast of US petrol pipeline. This is just a taste. It's just a taste of the potential of these vulnerabilities, and the global society needs to come up with two-part solution. First, to develop a technological protection, which is highly non-trivial, and second, to implement these types of protection in time, because in a way, any month being late opens the door for unacceptable and potentially really grave danger, not just for the financial sector of the global society, but also for critical infrastructure and for the all sides of life of people all around the world. Now, last but not least, digital fiat would change the game for financial intelligence, and we have to be aware of that. Now, AI has at least two-part role in this newly evolving digital financial ecosystem of tomorrow. One is the negative role, or how can we use, or how can somebody use AI tech in order to bring about some of the threats I mentioned earlier. And the other role is a positive role, or how can we use AI technology and deep tech technology to prevent and defend against threats like the ones I mentioned before, and many others. Now, I'll just give you a very short list, by no means exhaustive, not at all, how AI can be and is actually being used as we speak for attacks and compromising financial security. For example, the crypto trading bots and other AI run trading bots, whether it's a stock exchange or probably in insurance, although I have no information so far about such implementation. Perhaps some of the specialists in the area might give us a bit more details about the role of AI trader bots in insurance segment, needs to be trained on a lot of data in order to be successful. Now, people who deploy bots like this typically are only customers of the companies which develop the bots. And if you don't know what you're buying, you're effectively making a jump of faith. So you trust that the company which sold you the AI bot is a benevolent company which has the best in mind for your trading business. And that's not always the case, right? We have malevolent agents, and I'm not talking only about state actors, but we can eventually get the conversation down to the level of mere competition. Mere competition. One corporation takes over or ruins the business of another company by devising a secret operation of selling them an AI trading bot which is able, following a sophisticated algorithm, to simply ruin the business, so that the attacker company or a state, the principle is the same. AI ironically does not discriminate. They'll just bite a greater piece of the market. So we don't talk here only economic warfare, state actors and terrorist groups and criminal groups. No, we're talking about competition, and that's scary. Now, one way you can devise such warfare competitor bot is by data poisoning. It's a relatively novel technique which effectively is training the bot on deliberately poisoned data. So it's not real data, it's as close to real as possible while delivering the poison to the trade suggestion of the bot, which would ruin the business of your competitor, okay? Another much more popular approach is to use AI to create fake identities. Now, everybody's laughing. We're laughing when we see the deep fakes, right? Hollywood actors, presidents saying things which are not expected by them. Turns out a couple of hours later that they're deep fakes. These are AI generated fake identities of people in key decision-making positions, or even yourself. It's a huge problem, obviously. Now, another species of vulnerability which is being large open by an AI technology is the so-called deep attacks And this is a very novel type of attack, still in its infancy. It's an attack which has been devised and discovered by an AI system. Now, to put it in other words, is an attack which we humans were not clever enough to devise, and we delegated this task to an AI system to discover vulnerability and to devise an attack, whether it's an attack on a financial system or any other type of attack. And such deep attacks are anything but trivial. And obviously, the only way to defend against deep attacks is again by using AI tech of the kind and of the scope and of the structure which devised the attack in the first place, whether for prevention or for defense. Another point of vulnerability, really extremely serious, is financial terrorism. It can come in a variety of flavors. One of them could be an attack devised against the national fiat system. Remember, fiats they seem to be going digital, and then you can lead attacks towards digital money that were not possible to be waged against cash in my pocket, because cash is physical and digital money are virtual, they're digital. Now, again, the only way to prevent, detect, and defend against digital finance terrorism attacks is by using cleverly, aptly, and timely AI technology of the highest grade before the malevolent actors. Okay, now something which is today considered a bit more exotic, but I don't share this opinion at all. It's the quantum AI platform, which would be able to do a variety of tasks in a way unseen before. For example, to break encryption of some kinds, or to come up with breaking algorithms of the kind of the infamous now Shor algorithm or Grover's algorithm, which run on operational systems that run on quantum computers. Now, this is coming fast. It's coming fast, and states and business, not to mention the global and local financial sectors, insurance including, should have prepared yesterday. Actually, today's late, I think, but better later than ever. And a last touch, AI in financial warfare between state actors, typically. Now, imagine financial sanctions of state A against state B. Now, imagine what would be the access of one state towards the money, of the digital money of the other state, if the money are all digital, right? Now, it's going to be a different world, and we need to prepare yesterday, not today, yesterday. We are late. We are being gravely late. Now, I mentioned a couple of the pluses of AI, but let me just give you a couple of other more optimistic implementations of AI in the realm of financial security. Now, for example, of course, we can use, and we are using AI technology, but just not at the pace that we need to defend financial systems. We can fight deep fakes with AI and only with AI. We can perform real-time monitoring for malicious behavior in events. We can use AI tech as a powerful anti-money laundering tool with the small detail that in order to be able to use it as an AML tool, you need to have access and data. Of course, banks are one of the pioneers, and I don't mean that much central banks as trade banks. They use AI tech as a powerful anti-fraud detection tool, and again as a powerful tool against identity theft. Now, and I conclude my talk. I apologize if I took more minutes than I anticipated to. What is the upshot of this talk is that AI needs to be developed and implemented ASAP as a secure AI development, deep tech AI control systems, AML and anti-fraud monitoring for banks and digital money, AI in dark web crime prevention, monitoring and defense, AI against deepfakes and identity theft, and AI against financial terrorism and financial warfare. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. From our side, it was quite comprehensive lecture.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Bye, Boris.